2022 has been quite the year for Magic books. There were so many fantastic releases that I thought it was only right if we did our own awards show right here on Erudite Magic. There are, of course, a couple of caveats to all of these awards. I really am only grading the books that I've had the opportunity to look at, which I haven't seen every book this year. So if you think there are some books that I left off the list, feel free to drop a comment down below with some of the People's Choice winners. The first category up for this prestigious award are the reprints. Let's take the reprints by publisher. H&R Magic Books out of Texas republished some fan favorites this year, and we reviewed 2 of them. If you've watched Erudite Magic for any length of time, then you know I love Nick Trost magic. So I was delighted earlier this year when H&R Books decided to republish The Subtle Card Creations Volume 1. I did a full review, but it just has so many great ideas from the fertile mind of Nick Trost. I also love the fact that here in the back of the book, you have an appendix of sleights that teaches you a lot of really useful moves for any level of card magician. Also from H&R Books, I was able to discover a brand new author to me. And it's ridiculous that this is a new author because this creator is so widely respected. I'm talking about Seventh Heaven by Lewis Jones. This book was in print before and has been republished in a second edition, but has a lot of really clever thinking and turned me on to the work of Lewis Jones. Kaufman & Company also republished several books that had long been out of print for them in 2022. I already had several of these books, but it was exciting to see that so many of you are now able to get them. 2 of the titles that saw republication in 2022 were Expert Coin Magic by the late David Roth and Mastering the Art of Magic by the late Eugene Berger. If you're into coin magic, David Roth's book is widely considered to be one of the best sequels to Bobo's New Modern Coin Magic. And if you like applied theory, you can't go wrong with a name like Eugene Berger. We've all known for a while that Hermetic Press books were acquired by Penguin Magic and that the plan was to reprint most of them at some point. They've now started that process, so get excited, folks, because we're going to be able to get some of these hard-to-find books once again. One of the first titles that they announced late in the year 2022 was Barry Richardson's Theater of the Mind. Even though a lot of people think of this as mentalism, Barry presented both mental magic and mentalism, as well as just straight magic tricks, so you're likely to find something for everyone in a book like Theater of the Mind. In addition, they announced Sonata by Juan Tamariz. This book has been on a lot of people's radar for a long time, myself included, and although I don't have my copy yet, it will join my library. The fine folks over at Vanishing Ink also republished several titles this year, most notably The Definitive Mental Mysteries of Hector Chadwick. This book, published under a pseudonym by one of Darren Brown's writers and creators, was republished in a handsome hardback last, but certainly not least in the reprint category, is one of my favorite artistic magic books. This book was sought after for a long time. I got in on the very first printing Repertoire by Aussie Wind. I did a review of this a long time ago, and it still is just so strikingly beautiful with all of the hand-painted illustrations that Aussie did for all of the tricks. And of course, the magic itself is quite bespoke, and it just makes a really gorgeous book that you like to get out and look at from time to time. And the award for 2022 Reprint of the Year just sneaks into this year and goes to Juan Tamariz's Sonata, produced by Hermetic Press and published by Penguin Magic. You might be saying, well, wait a second, Jeff, you don't own it. That's correct, but I can tell you that the magic that I know is contained in it from having a lesson with Juan Tamariz, that this book is well deserving of the top spot. And I look forward to reviewing it in the near future. I thought that the best way to break down the other awards would be into independent publishers and some of the big dogs, like Kaufman & Company, Vanishing Incorporated, Squash Publishing, etc. One of the first contenders for the independent publisher is someone who's new, not to magic, but to magic books. This was their first foray into the magic publishing world, and I am talking about No Man's Land by TCC Magic. This was a 2-volume set covering the magic of Kiyoshi Sato, and I did a full review of this gorgeous set of books. A perennial favorite to anyone who loves to do close-up card magic that isn't hard to do, Steve Beam gave us Smokers, which is both a history and an encyclopedia of effects that can be done using this devious and old principle. For all of the fans of close-up magic, if you like to mix in things other than magic to give your show a little bit of texture, then you had to love the Bammo Flim Flam conglomeration written by Bob Farmer and put out by Kaufman and Company. This book grouped together the best of Bob Farmer's contributions to both Genie and Magic magazine over a very long period of time and teaches all kinds of bar bets, stunts, and ways that you could take advantage of the odds for entertainment purposes. It's not often that we get to see an entire lifetime of performance put into one book. So earlier this year, I was delighted to see the exact kind of book that I love come to market. Unfortunately, it also coincided with the author's passing. Making Magic by Martin Lewis. Martin performed a lot of different kinds of magic, so you'll find things covering everything from cards to newspapers. Of course, he teaches some of his most famous tricks in here, like cartographic, and the whole premise is that you'll learn to make the type of magic that Martin Lewis loved to perform, and he's sharing it all here in this gorgeously produced hardback book. Another independent release that showed the world that you can produce a high-quality book without having to go through one of the major magic publishers was Ryan Schlutz and his Unanchored book. The production values are highly reminiscent of Andy Gladwin's The Boy Who Cried Magic, which means that they're of extremely high quality. And the award for the 2022 independently published Magic Book of the Year, the award goes to Making Magic by Martin Lewis. This is my type of magic book where he's going to teach you how to make your own props, the thinking behind why he created what he did, the iterations so that you can see over time as he came to adapt and respond to different performing environments, situations, and requirements. And just the sheer variety of the magic. It's always going to be hard to beat a book that encompasses someone's entire career, and I couldn't be more delighted to hand this award to Martin Lewis's book. I'm sure that he's watching and smiling down from up above as we learn and perform some of his magic from this book. I'm going to divide the books that were published by major magic publishers into two final categories. The first one is what I'm affectionately going to call books you probably can't afford. That means that the price is over $100. I didn't acquire all that many pricey books, but there were a couple worth noting this year. The first was Squash Publishing's Max Malini, King of Magicians, Magician of Kings, written by Steve Cohen. Squash has always had a great reputation for producing beautiful books, but this one probably takes the cake. It's written in kind of an old school typewritten style with lots of black and white photos and old illustrations that really bring the text to life. This book is the magnum opus about Max Malini. So if you've ever wondered about this magician that has so much legend surrounding him, I'm sure you can have your questions answered in this book. The other huge release in 2022 was another Vanishing Ink release in the middle of the year. Hopefully you'd been saving your Christmas money, your birthday money, and everything else because it wasn't cheap. But it certainly seemed to be worth it. Over a decade of magic from some of the top names in the magic world over that time period. Of course, I'm talking about Talk About Tricks, which ran in Magic magazine for so very, very long and curated, written by Joshua J. Each one of these books contains a lifetime of close-up magic, not just cards, coins, dollar bills, cups and balls, chapstick, popsicles, watches, gambling demonstrations. There are so many tricks in this collection that went on to become classics of magic and were published in other places. Now you can get it all in one place in between 4 covers. Of course, with the weight and heft of volumes like this, puts it in a class all of its own. And the 2022 Erudite Magic Expensive Book of the Year award goes to Talk About Tricks. This collection is just absolutely gorgeous. There's so much magic that if you can't find something that you like, you really just haven't even begun to scratch the surface. This is the type of book that will take you a long time to get through everything that it has to offer. I've only had this collection for a few months, and there are already several pieces that have made it into my professional working repertoire. The price will keep some people from buying this, but if you'd like to know a way that you can look at some of the same contents for less money, then be sure to check out my review of this book. And then, of course, I'll have the regular Erudite Magic Book of the Year for everything that is under $100. If you've been paying attention for the last few years, then you know the name Nick DeFont. He's one of the young comedy magicians who's really taken the world by storm. He published a small booklet of his own magic a few years ago and now has followed it up with a full-color hardback book of all of his own original magic, offbeat, put out by Squash Publishing. It was really exciting to see a book with such gorgeous production values. The photos were actually shot with real film, and all of the energy, creativity, and humor that Nick put into this certainly make it a serious contender for Book of the Year. There's a huge variety of different types of magic, with balloons, handcuffs, Monopoly bills, ropes, etc. Vanishing Ink certainly did their best to make this a memorable year with all of their affordable magic book releases. The first one I reviewed in 2022 was Jack Parker's 52 Explorations, written by Andy Gladwin. If you don't already know the story, Jack Parker was a British magician who was taken far too soon from us, but he made friends with Andy Gladwin, who published not just one, but 2 books of Jack Parker's close-up card magic. The first book was published several years ago, and 52 Explorations is another look at some extremely devious card magic. Later in the year, they published a book that was another kind of change of pace type book. It wasn't traditional magic, it wasn't close-up card stuff, it was pickpocketing from the mind of Hector Mancha. In this book, you could learn how to pickpocket anything from neckties to glasses, wallets to belts. And there are even some magic tricks taught in the book to give you some moments to attempt the pickpocketing, but still bring everything to a successful resolution. Finally, from Vanishing Ink, and this seemed to be the year of the box set, was a book looking at one specific trick deck and its many applications, some of which you would never have thought of on your own. Ben Harris's Symmetry, Parity, and the Chimera deck. In this box set, you not only received the hardback book, but you also received 3 decks that were necessary to perform all of the tricks. It's no secret that the deck in question is the Svengali deck, but there were a lot of really devious ways to not only deploy the Svengali deck in a way that looked like it was completely mixed, but also some really killer effects that are possible with these decks. And the award for the 2022 Erudite Magic Book of the Year goes to Nick DeFont's Offbeat. This book was so fun and so cool. I loved the production values, the magic that was included in it, and some of the essays that really helped you to learn how to improve your own magic. Congrats to Nick, Squash, and the rest of the team involved with this book. I know it's a very coveted award. These are, of course, my subjective choices for Book of the Year. If you have other books that you would have liked to see win, sound off down in the comments below. And if you want to see some books that I really wanted to love but never did, be sure to check out this video. But until next time, all my erudite friends, thanks for watching. Keep reading.